Hello folks and welcome back to my channel. In this video I will show you how to navigate and land in the F-86 Sabre. Alright, before we get started I need to mention that the F-86 was never really intended to be used in bad conditions or at night. Its design was that of a daytime interceptor and fighter bomber, usually guided to the targets by ground radar or ATC. After that, the targets were usually acquired visually. Therefore, the F-86 obviously lacks any kind of sophisticated navigational instruments. The only way for a pilot to get any kind of direction in bad conditions was first the normal electric compass here, also called HSI, and second the radio compass here, which could be used to navigate to certain radio stations, also referred to as NDB or non-directional beacon. How to use those two instruments together to navigate to an airfield and also align yourself with a runway, I will explain in the following tutorial. For that, let's first have a look at the F10 map and imagine the following little scenario. So we are the proud owner of a retro F-86 Sabre that was just performing at a big air show around the Las Vegas area here. Now the air show is over and we were on our way back to the airfield we started from, which was originally a Groom Lake. As you can see, our Sabre is here. We are on approach to Groom Lake. We are already aligned with the runways here, and just when we were about to start our descent, we unfortunately received a radio call that due to an emergency with another aircraft that was performing at the air show, we have to divert to Creech here, also referred to as Indian Springs. Now unfortunately in the later afternoon we had some big banks of clouds moving into this area. The vision got worse than when we started, so navigating to Creech might be a little bit more challenging. So in order to do this, we will need any kind of navigational assistance that we can get. We will first use the Sabre's radio compass to tune into the Desert Rock NDB here. Now, as I said before, an NDB is a non-directional beacon, so basically a radio beacon that emits on a certain frequency that we can tune in our radio compass. Don't ask me why it is called a non-directional beacon, because actually it does give you a direction. Now around the NTTR map you don't have many of these NDBs. I found another one out here in the desert. Now most of you guys will be flying around the Caucasus map, and there basically every airfield has like one if not two NDBs that you can play around with. So we will use the radio compass to get us close to that NDB here, and while we do so, at the same time, as you might have noticed, we are now aligned with the runway at Groom Lake, but the runway at Creech here that we will be using, it is like we are not aligned with it at all, so we will use the Sabre's electric compass to align ourselves up ahead with the runway in Creech. So in the perfect situation, once we drop out of the clouds around the NDB here, we should already be aligned with the runway, and then we can just do a visual approach and landing. And how all of this is done, I will show you now. Alright, we are in active pause here, and I will show you now step by step how this is done. First we need to inform the Creech ATC that we are inbound. By that we just change our radio channel here. I have Groom Lake on channel 1 and Creech on channel 2. Just remember that there is no possibility to change the channel's frequencies in the F-86 in flight. They are always pre-programmed. So now that they know that we are inbound, we can start setting up our radio compass. For that we use this panel here on the right console. First we need to turn it on by using this knob here. And we can see that the radio compass comes to life. As long as it is not tuned into a specific beacon, it is just spinning around like that. Now how do we tune into our radio beacon? The problem here is, or not a problem back then, something else just didn't exist. Everything here is like analog, so analog gauges. Now we need to know two things: the frequency of the NDB and also then the Morse code translation to the name of the NDB. I will show you on the F10 map what exactly that means. When we have our Desert Rock NDB here, this is very small, I hope you guys can see that. It shows us a frequency of 326 kilohertz and it's named MCY. So in that case we need to tune in the compass to a frequency of 3 to 6 kilohertz, and we will know that we tuned into the right NDB when the aircraft is giving us the Morse code sound for MCY. So you can see we have here 4 different bands of frequencies. Remember, we are looking for a frequency of 3 to 6 kilohertz. So we turn this knob to the first band here. And then you can see we have steps here on this analog gauge. It is now in between 340 and 270 kilohertz. So then next we will use the tuning knob here. This you can either bind to a rotary or, as I find most convenient, using a stepped mouse scroll wheel. So I will first push it to 340 and then slowly, mouse wheel step by mouse wheel step, I will tune it down to roughly where I think 326 must be about. Alright, you can see now that this gauge here came to life. It basically shows us when we picked something up and how strong the signal is. Now before I tuned it in here it was basically at 0, and now when we turn on the volume here you guys can already hear static. Okay, now it's all the way to the right, that means we picked something up. We can also already hear a Morse code sound. Okay, so that is dash dash for M, that is dash dot for C, and dash dot dash dash for Y. Well, of course I don't know Morse code, I learned this beforehand, but there is not really another option to identify an NDB in this old aircraft. So that means now we are tuned into the correct frequency, we have our Morse code for MCI. Now we can have a look at the radio compass if it already gives us a direction. No, it still spins around, so it means we picked up the NDB, but the signal is not strong enough yet, so we will just continue spinning the tuning knob here. Alright. The radio compass changed direction. And it stays now at a certain position. So now we know that we tuned into the right NDB. You can see that this is never like completely like fixed, it always spins around a little bit, but we can now see that the NDB is about 40 degrees on our right side. So the radio compass is set up. Next we want to use our electric compass here. Remember we checked before what is the runway heading of the runway, I think it was 08 or 05 at the Creech airfield. What we basically want to achieve with this approach is a situation where the needle of our radio compass is pointing directly towards 0. So when the needle of the radio compass points directly at 0 degrees, it means we are flying directly towards the NDB. And at the same time we also want to fly a course of roughly 78 to 80 degrees. So you don't have to do this, but it helps if you also roughly put 80 degrees here. on the top side of the radio compass, it just helps with acquiring this certain situation that we want. So at the moment we can see that the NDP is like way off our right, and we are flying a course of roughly 125 degrees, so nothing that we really want for our approach. So now that everything is set up, correct NDP and our runway heading here, we can start flying this approach. The first thing we want to do, we want to find ourselves in a situation where we are flying directly towards the NDP, so we have a general indication of where our airfield will be. Always focused on our radio compass here. It shows now about 0. Yeah, we are flying towards our NDP. Now in a situation where we would have no idea where our airfield is, or especially what are the runway headings, the safest way would be to just fly directly towards the NDP, and once we arrived at the NDP, to identify our airfield visually. Another thing to mention here, also very important, this kind of radio compass navigation that we are doing here, it does not give you any kind of ranging information like a TACAN does, for example. So the only way to find out that we arrived at our NDP is when we are flying directly above it. The needle will start going erratic, and when we overflew it, it will then point into the opposite direction of where we came from. So then we knew that we overflew the NDP. But now, because if you remember the approach I showed you from the F10 map, we want to achieve a situation where the NDP at Desert Rock is at our 9 o'clock position here, and once that situation is achieved, that the NDP is our 9 o'clock position, then we can slowly start turning in towards the NDP until we have a situation where the needle here is pointing at 0 again, and this needle here is pointing at 78 to 80 degrees. So we should be aligned with the runway when we drop out of the clouds. I will also at this point reduce the throttle a bit and start a descent. Now another thing to mention, the F-86's artificial horizon here, it's really crap, to be honest. I don't like it at all. There are no contrasts, no colors. You don't want to fly in cloud or in bad visibility with this thing longer than absolutely necessary. Now, of course, in a real-world scenario, in a situation like this, we would constantly be in contact with ATC, and they would, of course, guide us as precise that we wouldn't even need those navigational aids. This is, of course, for training purposes, and also we all know that the ATC system, as it is currently implemented in DCS world, really sucks. So there is not much information we can get out of the ATC actually. Okay, that happens sometimes. As you can see now, the radio compass for some reason lost our signal for a while. Maybe it's because of the clouds, who knows, maybe there was a small mountain ridge or a hill in between, but we picked up the signal again. Alright, as the NDB is slowly approaching our 9 o'clock position, we can start flying our arc. This is the time where we want to have both inside the radio compass and the electrical compass, so we can achieve that situation. As you can see, both needles are slowly start turning into our 12 o'clock position. Yeah, this is something you can explain over and over again, but you can only really learn it by doing it many times. Okay, I will slowly start coming out of the clouds. Use the throttle. All right. Now let's see where we are. At this point it is more important that we fly towards our NDB, because we know that in extension to that NDB somewhere there is our airfield. Now with an aircraft like the F-86 that was only intended to be flown in perfect weather conditions, the final approach you will always have to do visually. There is no way to land this aircraft in bad conditions like fog or rain. Okay, we can see our needle going erratic here. That must mean we will soon overfly our NDB. No, not entirely yet. Okay, now it's turning around. We just overflew our NDB. Now let's see if somewhere in the distance we can start spotting our airfield. Of course this is much easier in VR. That should be it in the distance, yep. Now if you guys can see it, there is the airfield. Yeah, almost made it. So we need to intercept our course line again. Get back on that 80 degrees heading, but since we can already see the runway in the distance, the rest of the approach will be purely visual. Reduce our speed. For landing the F-86 there's also not really much to it, just remember that you have to operate your flaps manually, and if you have the feeling that you are too fast for the approach, you can always start using the air brakes. Okay, let's contact Reach ATC, request landing. And once we hit 200 knots, we can extend our landing gear. Flare the aircraft and come in nice and slow. Use the air brakes. And here we are, welcome to Creech Air Force Base. Now I hope this little tutorial was helpful, and see you next time.